Welcome, everybody, to the kingdom. Lowering the drawbridge. You guys know the routine. Up in the chamber, letting you guys file into the throne room. Well, I will be taking my seat. Tonight, we are going to review episode 103 of Harmony and Chaos. A battle at Friendship Castle, or the Battle of Friendship Castle. What an episode that was, man. Violence, storytelling, a lot of shockers in that episode. Jules the Hedgehog makes his debut in the series. And we also find out the other shocker. Sonic and Shadow are brothers, which also means Manic and Sonia are siblings of Shadow and Felia. We're going to cover it all here on this episode of The Kingdom. If you guys thought episode 103 was good, wait till you get 104 and 105. A lot of good stuff coming with the series. With that being said, I got the drawbridge dropped. I'm getting ready to take my seat in the throne room. We're going to talk Harmony and Chaos in a few minutes. I'll see you guys in a few.
Need something more than me, someone to push me to victory. Let's see what we can do together, me and you. Can't be afraid to try. Guess your fears goodbye. No looking back. You and I were on the attack. Full speed ahead. Running to the sunset. Such a different feeling. Both of us believing we can make it better. Together, ready for the world, what we can do. You are next to me and I'm next to you. Push me on through until the battle's won. No one's gonna get nothing to us. Into each other we put our trust. Standing united after the fight. All alone we will never be. But two of us are holding the key. We stand today. A world we couldn't see. Before I say goodbye to you, one more last fist bump.
Welcome, everyone, to the Kingdom, the live review show of Harmony and Chaos and other things that are Sonic and My Little Pony crossover or other things that we are interested in. Tonight, we're going to review episode 103, and what an episode it was. Again, guys, I am Michael Evans, VA, creator and writer and producer of Harmony and Chaos, and host of what we call the Kingdom. That's what I call our community here, the Kingdom, because why not? Yeah, I tried to go live about 20 minutes ago, and then the wind said no. Wind said no, you're not going live. Because I'm going to knock out your internet temporarily. That's what happens when you live in Illinois. Constant wind here. I'm also, this is a first. I'm actually using my brand new laptop for this live stream. So hopefully the looks like the image, it looks like the camera is very, very sharp. I like that. So I'm doing well. Brandon, how are you? Hope everything is well with you guys. Elijah, I see you in the chat. Again, I did this with the last Kingdom live stream. We are officially going to be subscriber only during all live streams. So if you're a fan of the series and are not subscribed to the channel, and you want to be part of the community and chat and ask questions, sometimes I like to answer your guys' questions live. So please like, subscribe, definitely subscribe. I have a goal. I want to get this channel to 1,000 subscribers by the end of 2025. So it's going to be a little bit of a challenge. I don't think we're going to get there, but we'll see. Before we get into the episode, I also want to send a shout out to my friends over on JD from New York's channel, the OTS. I want to shout out my fam there. I got a handful of friends that I met there that have subscribed to the channel recently. So I want to say thank you to you guys for subscribing, helping me try to get to my goal. That's awesome on my OTS family members who I talk to pretty much every time there's a wrestling show. There's always a live stream. Speaking of wrestling, I'm missing SmackDown right now because let's face it, I'd rather be live doing the Kingdom than watching another 3 hours of boring SmackDown. No offense, but it just, I need a break from SmackDown. Yes, it is a very ambitious goal, Elijah. I think we can do it. It's going to be hard, but again, to beat the algorithm, you got to post. The more episodes you post, the more your stuff gets pushed through the algorithm. We know all about the algorithm, the stress that is trying to figure out the YouTube algorithm. What more can I say? The channel is growing. I will definitely say, just watching the growth of this channel in particular over the last 4 years has just been mind-boggling. Now I know there are people that I know there are people that literally go from 1,000 to 10,000 subscribers in seemingly weeks. But like, I mean, for me to go from 200 to 600 in a matter of about 3-4 years is unbelievable. That's you guys. So getting into episode 103. How's it going, Exior? Exior says, "What's up? If that's not a Rizzo jersey, I'm gonna be pissed." No, I got one better. Hold on, give me a second. Let me take this off. Oh, what's up, Boom? No, it's the man might be the MVP by the end of this year. PCA, man. Come on, Boom. It's PCA. Man, the man might be MVP by the end of the year. What's up, Michael Collins? And yes, Boom, the Cubs beat the White Sox in the first game of the Crosstown. Oh my God. Pete Crow Armstrong, dude. He's got I think either 12 or 13 home runs after today. He's like second in the league in OPS. Yeah, the Cubs beat the White Sox 13-3 at Wrigley today. Yeah. But I digress. Yeah, 13-3. So yeah, round one of the crosstown goes to the Cubs. If you haven't heard of Pete Crow Armstrong, I guarantee you, Boom, you will hear about him by the end of the year. They were on a little losing streak, not much. But anyway, guys, episode Boom's got me talking Cubs and White Sox here. Boom is from Chicago originally, so he gets. And Boom says he's watching SmackDown. I'm not watching SmackDown tonight. I need a break. 3 hours of SmackDown is too much. When they go back to 2 hours, I might be more apt to watch. But I did promise you guys a live stream tonight last week. So that's another reason why I'm doing it. So I did promise you guys the live stream, which is why I'm not watching SmackDown. Anyway, what can we say about episode 103 other than wow? Yeesh. It was everything from shocking moments to just heavy fighting. And we're obviously it's piggybacking off of what happened in the prior episode in episode 102 with Aeon, or not Aeon, Infinite's army attacking our heroes at the Grand Galloping Gala. Well, we start off episode 103 following the end of that battle. And here we open up in Canterlot and we kind of see the ponies, the elements of harmony. We see the heroes. They're all just kind of somberly hanging out in the throne room, just kind of taking an exhale after turning Infinite's army to stone. Our heroes, especially the ponies, are a little upset over what they had to do. They never had to use the elements of harmony to turn normal ponies into stone before. So they're kind of upset that they had to do it. We see Silver kind of integrates into himself into the conversation by saying, you girls really had no other option at that point. It was the only way to safely defeat Infinite's army without actually physically hurting the ponies. So, you girls did what you had to do, and that was the best option. Knuckles also says something about, these weren't just normal ponies, Rarity. These were ponies who are under the evil influence of Infinite's magic. So the only way to beat them was using the elements. So, you girls shouldn't be upset over having to have to do what was right. The other thing about that, as we know, the ponies, our heroes have got quite a battle ahead of them. What lies ahead, obviously they have to worry about Infinite and Chrysalis and an entire changeling swarm in Ponyville. And on top of that, they have to worry about Princess Cadence and Princess Flurry Heart, who are being held captive in the Crystal Empire by Dr. Eggman and his forces. So you kind of have this multi-front war going on in Equestria. So our heroes had to kind of pick and choose their battle. And we'll get into that here in a minute as we progress through the scene. But that's another reason why they use the elements of harmony on top of trying to protect those ponies from being hurt or killed. They needed to end that battle as quickly as possible because they have other battles to tend to that are more important. And we saw that in this episode. So as this scene progresses, we get past the woe is me. We had to use the elements of harmony on regular Chicago and ponies. To Shadow basically declaring that he's going to go after Infinite by himself, and he's not going to sit here and talk and strategize a plan when Infinite has his sister. They know Philia is still alive. They can still sense what's left of her powers. Um, Solar says, Geezer, be happy I found you. I Solar, I was abridged as to what is going on with your channel, how we're voicing comics and stuff. I'm actually Solar, I'm actually going to do voicing for you tonight as soon as this live stream ends. I'm going to go ahead and start recording. This is a recording night, so I'm going to record lines for your series after I'm done here. So trust. Let's see. What else is the chat saying? Anyway. Well, I need to voice for you, Solar. I'm kind of behind. Yeah. So going in to the rest of the sequence, we see Shadow kind of get angry and upset. Because they're sitting here talking when they should be, going after Philia, and defeating Infinite. But Twilight then interjects and said, "No, you're not going to just go to Ponyville by yourself, Shadow. You're going to sit here and listen to Sonic's plan, because his plan for using the elements of harmony on the Kokagoan ponies on Infinite's army clearly was a success. So I suggest we listen to what Sonic has to say. And on top of that, look what happened to your sister. She didn't heed our warning about Infinite, and now look what happened to her. She got defeated, and who knows if she's dead or alive. You're going to make the same mistake Philia did?" And so she kind of gets Shadow to back down a little bit. And Sonic then starts to lay out the plan. The basis of this is that Sonic knows that they have to fight multiple battles here. And he does not want to use the elements of harmony on these enemies. Sonic is in the mindset where, okay, we've already turned Chrysalis to stone. She's broken out, and clearly she's not changing. These enemies are far too dangerous to just turn to stone at this point. So let's leave the elements here in Canterlot, and we'll just fight the war without them. We'll fight the battle without them. We don't need them, because Sonic at this point wants to take out at least Chrysalis. So he does not feel the need to bring the elements. There's also that underlying factor that, okay, they use the elements of harmony on an entire army, covering an entire city. So they kind of have to give the elements an opportunity to kind of like recharge. The elements were never used on that kind of a scale as far as an entire city of ponies having to have to be used. Let's see. As this scene progresses, Sonic then lays out his plan. We see Hunter ask the question, do you need Sonia and I for this battle? Should we stay and help you guys fight? And Sonic says, yeah, it would be nice, ideally, but we kind of need to stick to our guns. You and Sonia need to find those elements. You guys need to find the Chaos Emeralds. Eggman is preoccupied right now with his takeover of the Crystal Empire. So in Sonic's mind, they need to find those Chaos Emeralds before Eggman decides to start looking for them. So Sonic tells Hunter and Sonia, stick with the plan. We do need your help in this fight, but I would much rather you guys go after the Chaos Emeralds. He then says, we're going to have a group. It's going to be Chris, Tails, Amy, and Knuckles. You guys are going to head to the Crystal Empire inside the X Tornado. The sun is rising. You'll be able to get to the Crystal Empire using the solar power. So you guys are going to go to the Crystal Empire and rescue Princess Cadence and Flurry Heart. Like, that is your only goal. Don't try to fight Eggman. Don't try to just get Cadence and Flurry Heart and get them out of the Crystal Empire so Eggman does not have any leverage over us. So Sonic continues to lay out the plan. He tells the Crystal Empire crew what their goals are and what their mission is. Sonic then says, anyone who wants to go to Ponyville and help us fight, say so now. If you don't want to go, say so now. For those of you who are going, we're all going to board the X Tornado. For those of you who cannot fly, board the X Tornado. It's going to be a tight fit, but it's a very short flight, so we'll get there pretty quick. And shockingly, all of the girls agree to partake in this battle without the elements of harmony. Also, Starlight agrees to at least go to Ponyville. And kind of we didn't see Starlight in episode 103 really get involved in any of the fighting. Mainly because there's just so many characters. It's hard to implement every character in one of these episodes. I kind of just want to stick to like my main cast when it comes to these big fight episodes. I will occasionally break away and show some of the more, underlying characters, but I for this battle in particular, I do want to focus on more of the main characters in this fight. So Starlight agrees to go, and this is where we're again starting to see the tension rise between Prince William and Nightshade and Starlight, how they're kind of like intertwined in this triangle, ironically enough. But Prince William gets very upset, and he tells Starlight, like hell you're staying here and helping your friends fight. Like, we helped them last night. That's enough. You'll be safer in Europony with me. Do you really think Chrysalis is going to show up in Europony when she's preoccupied here? You'll be safer with me. And Starlight tells Will, my goal, I want to make sure Chrysalis is dead. I want to make sure she's dead, and I don't want to have to worry about this anymore. I want to put Chrysalis behind me. I can't do that. I can't live in peace in Europony not knowing what's going on here. So Starlight kind of feels like this duty, it's like kind of like a responsibility of hers to kind of just see through that Chrysalis is killed in this fight. She pleads with Prince William to stay and help if she really matters that much to him. She even says, if I do matter to you, you'll stay and help. Prince William says, I'm sorry, I can't do that. Which you have to understand from Prince William's perspective. Like, he feels like this is not his battle. Even though Starlight is involved. He also has the province of Europony to have to rule over. So he is fairly busy in Europony in his own right, ruling that kingdom. So that's why he really doesn't wants to. He just feels that it's not in his place, and he has more important things to do in Europony. He's got to. He leaves. He teleports away, but before he does that, he tells Starlight, I hope you come to your sense. Loyalty to your friends gets you killed. And then he very disappointedly and angrily teleports back to his castle in Europony. Fidget Castle is what it's called now. So it's Nightshade's old castle. So he teleports back there and leaves Starlight with Nightshade. Nightshade kind of jokingly says, well, good riddance. You'll be safer with me anyway, Starlight. And then Starlight says, look, you're in the doghouse there too, bud. So I'm kind of sick and tired of your shenanigans too. So don't think we're okay either, Nightshade. I'm literally here to make sure Chrysalis is done. At this point, Shadow is getting pissed. Sonic is getting pissed. And Twilight kind of has to like reel it all in and say, okay, enough's enough. Sonic has a plan that he wants to lay out. Can we finish? And Starlight apologizes. And then Sonic then lays out his plan for Ponyville. They're just gonna attack head on and just try to get Felia to safety and get her some medical help. Michael Collins asks, why is Starlight mad at Nightshade? She's not, I don't want to say she's like particularly mad at Nightshade. The thing is he's kind of causing some turmoil between her and Will. And she's trying, the thing is, the reason she's so mad is she's trying to fight off the feelings she has for Nightshade. So naturally, when you're trying to like not feel something for someone, you try to push them away or you try to treat them like garbage. Anything but to show them that you actually like them and that you actually do want to spend time with them. We'll get into the Starlight Nightshade thing later on. Right now, we're focusing on this battle, but the next step is the Will, Starlight, and Nightshade storyline that's going to come. And kind of like when things calm down for a little bit, that's going to be one of the main storylines, is going to be the love triangle of Prince William, Starlight, and Nightshade. Michael Collins says, well, Prince William is doing that to himself. Well, yeah. And like I said, the reason why Prince William has kind of got like this attitude, I don't want to say like a bad attitude, but he's royalty. And he doesn't feel like this fight includes him. And he's got better things to do in Europony than to fight a battle that he doesn't feel like he's a part of. I guess you could argue that I guess Starlight doesn't really matter to him because it means something to her. Making sure Chrysalis is defeated once and for all. But again, Prince William just doesn't want, he feels like Starlight would be protected in Europony and that she doesn't have to stay back and fight and put herself in harm's way. Basically is why he's so upset. But getting back to the original question, Starlight is just overall mad at Nightshade just because she is still fighting her feelings between Nightshade and Will. She's in love with both. But she's trying very hard to stay with Prince William. She's trying very hard. So in some sense, she's just kind of trying to push Nightshade away a little bit. She figures if I push him away, he'll stop or he'll back off a little bit. Brandon Henderson adds me and he says G5 is a scam. It is. I watched the movie and I watched the first 2 episodes and I said, I'm done with this. I'm like, I can't with G5. I'm still praying we get G4 back somehow.
Power off.
There you go. My Bluetooth turned off. So, all right. Let's see. Oh God. Yeah, I heard about the comic stuff. I don't know. Anyway, so we're going to wrap this opening scene up. So Sonic gets everybody on the same page. He tells the ponies and all those who cannot physically fly to Ponyville fast to board the X Tornado. So they could all get to Ponyville in a relatively the same amount of time. So they do that, and then before they depart, Sonic again questions Shadow and stops Shadow and says, all right, Shadow, now can you tell me what you tried to tell me last night? I think it's time you finally told me what you wanted to say. And Shadow's like, why? Why can't you just let this go? Now is not the time to discuss this. We've got a big battle. We don't need the distraction. That's how Shadow is feeling. Like, stop. Like, we'll talk about it when the time is right. And then Sonic chimes back at him and says, look, we are going into this big battle. We may die today. Do you really want to die without saying what we have to say to one another? And Sonic says, I already know what it is that you want to tell me. I already know that we're brothers. And then, of course, that's what Shadow was going to tell him. And we see Shadow kind of break down into tears. And he says, damn you, Sonic. But it's true. We are brothers. And we saw Sonic kind of like extend his fist out to Shadow's hand. And then Shadow reciprocates with the fist bump when he says brothers, which is kind of just this really crazy symbolic like thing. Like, yeah, we're brothers. Again, this is a storyline that I had originally planned when the series started back in 2016. So when I started writing this series 9 years ago, I'm finally to the point now where I could pay it off. And we're actually getting into that story now. So very long-term storytelling there. And it all started like I didn't drop any real subtle hints that they were brothers until the first episode of season 2, when Sonic donated his blood to save Shadow after he was impaled by Chrysalis the first time, back in the season finale of season 1, when they were fighting Chrysalis and the Changelings. So we after that first shocking moment happens, we go into the opening theme. We come out and we go straight to Ponyville and Twilight's Castle. And this is where we get shocking moment number 2. I didn't waste any time giving you guys shocking moments. With this episode, I didn't want to waste time. I wanted to just get those shockers out in the first 10 minutes. We get to Ponyville and we see Infinite having a discussion with Bokun. And the discussion is not a good one. Infinite is just kind of sitting on his red cube throne inside of Twilight's castle. He's kind of just watching Chrysalis and the Changelings being beaten, or at least they're having a hard time with Thorax and his reformed Changelings. So he's kind of just enjoying it to the point where Bokun's like, aren't you going to do anything to help mommy? Bokun is calling Chrysalis mommy now. I don't know why. He's got like a little crush on Chrysalis. Does Bokun. So, and Infinite tells him, look, if you want to go and save Chrysalis, by all means, go ahead and save Chrysalis. I'm not going to stop you. But this Changeling Civil War is not our concern. This is her fault. Why her Changelings are in their own fight while they're fighting each other. This is not our concern. We have bigger worries to deal with. And Infinite could not be more right, because he already knows that Sonic, Shadow, and the Elements of Harmony, he already knows that they are on their way and that there's going to be a much bigger fight that he's going to have to deal with. And no sooner does he say this, we hear the teleport sound, and lo and behold, to everyone's shock, is Jules the Hedgehog. Now, I know a lot of people, I know some of you are probably wondering, well, when did Jules get here? How did Jules get here? I'm not spoiling it. I'm going to make you guys wait that out, because the entire backstory is coming. And it's, we start piecing it together. You get a good chunk of it in episode 104, because Jules will explain it in 104. He'll explain it to Rainbow Dash and Bonnet. I think it's just Rainbow Dash he explains it to. It's Rainbow Dash and Bonnet. So I don't want to spoil it. His backstory is coming. I will say this about Jules. Jules has actually been there longer than anybody. As far as the Hedgehogs, that's all I'm going to say. Jules has been there for a long time, well before any of the Mobius characters show up. And again, like I said, I'm going to explain it. You'll understand it, and it'll make sense. I don't want to spoil it for you guys, though. So, to everyone's shock, Jules shows up. Now, Jules, I will say this, was not originally going to be in this series. I kind of felt the need to bring him in within the last, I would say, 6 months or so. And I was just trying to figure out ways to do it. And it'll make sense. So regardless, we get Jules. He shows up and he demands that Infinite hand Philia over peacefully. Jules is not worried about fighting Infinite because he already knows Sonic and Shadow are on their way. So he's not so much wanting to fight Infinite. He just wants his daughter, Philia. And Infinite, of course, says, he laughs and he's like, how dare you barge into my castle making such a demand? If you want your daughter, come and take her from me. And Jules is like, well, all right. Bo-kun kind of chimes in and says, are you crazy, boss? You have no idea who this guy is, do you? So Bo-kun has had his past experiences with Jules the Hedgehog. At least that is like what you guys are getting out of Bo-kun. And even like Jules tells Bo-kun like, oh, I see you haven't changed at all, Bo-kun. Still a little gremlin, I see. I think at some point, I think Jules did fight Eggman at some point before Sonic was born. So the lore on Jules is that Jules was doing Sonic things before Sonic was born. So Eggman was doing his stuff among other evil beings on Mobius. And essentially, Jules was Mobius's hero before Sonic became Mobius's hero. Canon Jules in the comics actually got roboticized by Eggman. I think he was roboticized somehow. Why would Bo-kun secretly follow the others anyway? Are you talking about Rainbow Dash? Are you talking at the end of the episode, Michael? Like where Bo-kun follows Rainbow Dash to Sweet Apple Acres? I'll get into that later if that's the question you're asking. It'll get explained later. Yeah, I'll explain that later, Michael Collins. But yeah. At Brandon Henderson asks me, is Chrysalis going to get reformed? No. She's not. Chrysalis will never reform. Ha! Nice. Like my Cubs, fly the W. No, I'll explain it, Michael. But when we get to that scene, I'll explain it. So we continue on. Oh, I got something in my eye. All right, so we continue on. Jules really doesn't want to fight Infinite. His only goal is to get Philia to a hospital. So Infinite denies him and says, you want your daughter? You got to get through me to do it. Come take her. She's in this cocoon up here that's above my head. Come take her from me. And Jules says, well, all right. I tried to warn you. All right. So keep in mind, now I will say this, his backstory is coming, but just remember Sonic and Shadow are part Alicorn, so you guys already know what's happening with Jules. So Jules is pretty powerful. So Jules winds up flooring Infinite right off the bat. And as he floors Infinite, he takes Philia's cocoon down from one of the stalagmites that she's hanging from. And he rips open the cocoon to find out that she's in worse shape than he thought. She lost a lot of blood. I mean, being crucified to a wall. Yeah, I would think you kind of lost some blood there. Especially with the size of the gashes that would be in her shoulder blade from those swords. So she lost a lot of blood and has gone into shock. So now Philia has to get a blood transfusion. Obviously, Jules being Philia's father is a blood type potential match, We find out that Jules is indeed, in fact, a blood type match for Felia. So he gets her to the, before he's able to get her, and get her to the hospital, he gets attacked by Infinite again. Infinite gets up, and before Jules could really take Felia, he gets kicked across the room. Infinite then uses the magic of the Phantom Ruby, and just like he did with Felia, he pins Jules to a wall. And he so eloquently chimes in, like father, like daughter. So again, Infinite was going to crucify Jules to a wall. That's why he threw in that line, like father, like daughter. Now, keep in mind, with Jules having alicorn abilities, he is also granted magical powers. So he uses this pony magic that he has, being, having the alicorn blood running through him, to loosen one of the glass stalagmites that Twilight has inside of her castle. As he's pinned to the wall, he loosens it and he smashes Infinite with this glass stalagmite. And when he does this, it frees him from Infinite's control. He very quickly rushes over and grabs Felia. And as he's going to leave the castle, Infinite heals himself, and then he teleports in front of Jules and says, "Where do you think you're going, Pops? You're not going anywhere." He tells Infinite, "I'm getting my daughter to the hospital, and you're not going to stop me." Basically, he says, "Getting my daughter to the hospital, and your time, Jackal, your time is up." Because Jules knows that Shadow and Sonic have arrived. So Shadow, literally in typical Shadow fashion, "You're mine!" Goes straight at Infinite, crushes Infinite through Twilight's castle. And then Sonic and Shadow come to the shocking realization, "Dad? Father?" And they literally see Jules standing there, and they both, obviously Sonic says dad, and Shadow says father. They say it at the same time, thus again confirming that Sonic and Shadow are indeed brothers. Now, I'll get into this now. One of the reasons why, in canon Sonic, we always kind of had this tension between Sonic and Shadow, like this, it was tension, and then it kind of became a rivalry, and then they kind of just mutually decided to work together. So you have to understand, Shadow and Felia, they were trained by Jules very harshly when they were kids. Jules was never really sure on how to bring the alicorn abilities out of Shadow and Felia. He wasn't sure on how to really do it because they didn't have the influence of the ponies to help them with their alicorn magic or with their alicorn magic abilities. So he just thought brute strength and brute force was the way that they were going to bring out this magical power. So I guess what the backstory is that Jules had beaten up Felia so badly one day. He had gone trying to push the power out of her so bad that he wound up injuring her. And then Shadow had to jump in and beat the crap out of Jules. Again, this is backstory that's coming later that you'll get. But you can honestly see now, and Shadow does explain this later on in this episode to Twilight, why there was so much animosity between himself and Sonic. Because Sonic and Jules look so much alike that every time Shadow saw Sonic, he was reminded of his father. So that's kind of like what was always the tension, or how I explained Shadow and Sonic's tension over the years, is because Sonic always kind of looked like their father. So Shadow didn't like that. and he always treated Sonic badly because of it. But yeah. So getting on, Shadow and Sonic are shocked to see Jules. Jules tells him, look, the family reunion will have to wait. I have to get your sister to the hospital. She needs a blood transfusion. And Sonic is like, well, just take her to Cosmo. She can heal her. And that's when Jules says, no, she's lost too much blood. I'm a blood match for her. She's gone into shock. She needs to get blood before she gets healed, because it's not going to matter. She's going to be in a coma, is basically what he's trying to say. So Jules uses this opportunity that Sonic and Shadow has given him to take Felia to the hospital. Before he leaves, he does tell Sonic and Shadow that he's proud of them and that he's basically been watching them. And then Sonic has even said, Sonic was like, Shadow, what the hell just happened? And Shadow says, well, how did you not know he was here? I sensed him on day one. Like, I knew he was here when we got here because I sensed him. And keep in mind, Sonic had no clue how to really use his magical abilities yet. It wasn't until the start of season 3 did we see Sonic start to use his pony magic that he does have. So, yeah. So as this fight progresses, I don't want to get too much into the fight because it's a fight. We'll touch on the important stuff. I actually want to get back into the chat and get a drink here. So getting back to your guys' chat. Boom says, I really question why I want to put Boom in this series. Michael Collins asks, why aren't you going to reform Chrysalis? I just feel like Chrysalis is so far gone in her evil ways that she doesn't want to reform. She's that full of hate for the ponies. And it's mainly Celestia and Luna that she's pissed off at. Because as we know, Chrysalis was the queen of the Crystal Empire. We learned that in season 2, right before the episode where they turn Chrysalis to stone. So I want to say it was the 4th episode of season 2, where we get more of Chrysalis's backstory, because Twilight, if you remember, she kidnapped Twilight in that episode. Or she didn't kidnap Twilight. Eberron kidnapped Twilight, and brought her and brought Twilight to Chrysalis and Camelot. So as Twilight is trying to plead with Chrysalis in that episode, we come to find out that Chrysalis was the original queen of the Crystal Empire. What happened was, Celestia and Luna were going through their sibling civil war during that time. And when King Sombra invaded the Crystal Empire originally, Chrysalis had pleaded, she had sent a plea to Celestia to help. We need help up here in the Crystal Empire. We have King Sombra and his army attacking us. We need all the help we can get. Well, it would turn out that Celestia, it fell on deaf ears, as Celestia told Chrysalis, I have my hands full dealing with Luna right now. I cannot deal with your issue, because what's going on with Luna turning into Nightmare Moon is more important than what's going on in the Crystal Empire. You have an army, you can handle it. So that is what led Chrysalis down the dark path. We also come to find out that she lost her husband. She was married. We found out that she lost her husband in this fight with King Sombra. That King Sombra murdered Chrysalis's husband, which is why Chrysalis now becomes essentially a succubus, why she feeds on love that was my explanation as to why she feeds on love and became a succubus. Because her husband was killed. So she lost the love of her life because of Celestia and Luna not helping her. She lost the love of her life, so now she's going to take love from the rest of Equestria, which is why she turned into the way she turned into. She has no hope. I have no plans to reform Chrysalis, and you'll see why. She's going to play a role throughout the series. So let's see. What else are you guys asking me? I don't want to dive too much into the chat just because I want to press on. Let's see. Michael Collins asks, well, Philia says, yay, I'm almost dead. I hate my life. What's new, Philia? Anyway, Michael Collins. Why did Infinite do a Roman-style crucifixion on Jules and Philia by pinning them to the wall? It's just something that I randomly came up with. It was, again, Philia getting crucified was not planned. It was just a natural thing that I did because he was fighting Philia and he brought his sword out and he held it to Philia's shoulder. And just randomly, I had him telekinetically push Philia and the sword into the wall, and it just happened to go through her shoulder. So I figured, well, I did one shoulder, I may as well do the other one. Hence how we got a Roman style well, yeah. Except this was they used swords. Infinite used swords and not spikes. I guess it's the same thing. He actually did not crucify Jules. He was going to crucify Jules, but Sonic, but like I said, Jules used his, alicorn abilities to loosen the glass stalagmite from the ceiling, and he smashed Infinite with it. That's how he was able to free himself from Infinite crucifying him. The simple answer, it was the Roman style crucifixion was not planned. It just, like I said, I don't really plan the fight sequences. I don't. Other than with fight sequences, I have very specific moments. And everything else that happens to get to that moment, I don't have anything planned. I just have specific moments. And it's just a matter of getting to those moments. And like I said, I none of these fight sequences are planned except for the big parts of it, the important parts. So like in the prior episode, the big part of the fight sequence was getting Sonic to use the elements of harmony on Infinite's army. That was the only really planned thing I had for that fight, was that it was going to end with Sonic using the elements of harmony. So pretty much everything that happened in that fight was all random too. It's just, it was a dark direction, but that's the direction in which I went. Because it naturally, that's just what came into my head in that moment. Kind of disturbing, and I guess if you want to say, but yeah, I after I wrote it, I was kind of like, did I just write Philia getting crucified? Like, can I do that? I was like, okay, well, it's kind of dark, but we're gonna go with it. It kind of gets me to the point that I need to get to, where he turns into Shadow and taunts her and then knocks her unconscious. Let's see. Chrysalis needs bug spray and a fly swatter. That's kind of funny. Oh, shut up, Philia. Philia says, exactly, that's just something that came into a small geriatric brain. Uh-huh. Yeah, you guys are having your own chat. I'm going to continue on. Let's see. Brandon Henderson asks me, Um, I'm surprised with how bad the Grand Galloping Gala is in canon MLP that the ponies haven't lost any interest in it. What are your thoughts on that? uh, you know, it always seems like trouble happens at the Grand Galloping Gala. Uh, I don't know. I guess the whole point of it is just to get a bunch of ponies together and have them mingle. But prior to the when the Elements of Harmony started going, it was basically just like the elite ponies of Equestria that would just go to this thing. So it's kind of changed. I don't know. Um, I don't know how many more Grand Galloping Galas I'm actually going to do with the series. Um, I will say this: not every Grand Galloping Gala is going to end in a tragedy or a fight or something bad. If I do another one, um, yeah, it just to me it seems like every time the ponies do try to have a celebration, there is some sort of an attack. So it does surprise me that they continuously do these, gatherings, so to speak. Um, because I think even Twilight in the canon series says something about like, oh, what can go wrong on my, I'm being, I'm being when Twilight became the princess, so she was like, I'm being coronated. I'm sure something's gonna go wrong. So, still looking at this. Yes, Elijah, you are legally. No, you're not really legally obligated, but yes, you cannot explain. No spoiling. That's exactly right there, Brandon Henderson. Brandon asks, when you say that Chrysalis was the queen of the Crystal Empire, are you saying that she was Princess Amore? Yes. That's my theory. And I'm not the only one who thinks that either. A lot of people, there's a lot of theory out there that Chrysalis was the missing queen, is the missing queen of the Crystal Empire. There's a lot of theory out there that also suggests it. I didn't get this idea from theory. This was how I went with it. This was my idea. I know the idea was thrown out there, but I didn't know about the theory until after I explained Chrysalis being the crystal queen. So it's kind of cool that there's other people out there that believe in the same kind of like theory and lore. I mean, it would make sense if you think about it. It would make sense, because Chrysalis is a queen of the changelings who feed on love. So if she was done dirty and she lost something, now I don't know if she was married. I don't know if she had. There is this realistic canon that Chrysalis was a real pony. She was a princess and she was married. There's this whole like I don't want to say it's canon, but it's suggested that she is a pony that went evil. Michael Collins says, wait, Michael, didn't Sombra kill Amore by turning her into a statue and shattered her? See, I don't know that in-depth detail on that. Again, I wrote this back. This particular episode, we're getting way too much into season 2 right now. But when I wrote this, keep in mind, it was 2017 when I wrote the whole Chrysalis backstory. I didn't know any of the Princess Amore lore. I didn't know any of that stuff. So if it doesn't correlate properly, I literally was basing Chrysalis's being the queen of the Crystal Empire on my own thoughts. I did not know that there could be a correlation there. I didn't know. So again, as Elijah said, is also, or it's also an alternate universe. Keep that in mind. It's a whole separate story, and some of the truths are not going to always match up. But you know, I didn't think he killed. See, and that's the thing. See, I always thought. I always thought that the original Queen of the Crystal Empire. I always thought she was just banished by Sombra, or she fled. That's what I always thought. So I don't know pony lore like way like that kind of lore as far as the Sombra lore. So Eliza says, hence why it was Chrysalis's husband that got killed instead here. Yeah. But again, if Chrysalis really is the Princess Amore, something bad would have had to happen for her to go evil. So my theory is she is the missing queen of the Crystal Empire. So Brandon Henderson asks, will the Pony of Shadows be in harmony and chaos as in the shadow that corrupted Stygian? No. No, they've already done that. Nope, that's past already. That was the end of season 7. So like where Harmony and Chaos starts is right after the Storm King. So Harmony and Chaos, the series technically starts 1 year after Chrysalis's defeat by Starlight, Discord, Trixie, and everybody else. And then everything in season 7 happened. And then Harmony and Chaos starts right after the Storm King's defeat. So, yeah. So again, it's an alternate universe, Michael. I didn't know all of the lore of the Princess Amore. I don't. I literally just follow the main series on television, and whatever lore there is, they need to explain that. That's not my job. My job is to not explain My Little Pony. But that's the problem when you have show writers take over a show. Instead of Lauren Faust writing it, we got a bunch of show writers. But yes, again, not my job to. That's something that should have been included in the series. But again, show writers versus the creator of the series. Lauren Faust, the creator of the series. The show writers took it over after season 2 or season 3. So all of that Sombra backstory that they could have told, which they didn't. It's kind of like Sonic Forces. The whole basis of the war was Shadow versus Infinite. We didn't get any of that. To the point where they were like, oh crap, yeah, we should probably include the Shadow backstory. And they did a download, a DLC. Ooh. No, I don't think the writers followed it either, Michael. And that's the issue. That's the issue with the show writers. Show writers never continue the series as was handed to them. That's one of the reasons why I don't hire more. That's one of the reasons why I don't have writers and why I write it myself. Because I know where I'm going with the story. I don't want other. That's the thing. I don't want to have to rely on other people to write my stuff. So, but again, that's something that should have been explained in the actual canon MLP series. They did that whole storyline and they never gave any backstory about Chrysalis. Think about this. Chrysalis was a major villain. We never got really any backstory about how she became the Queen of the Changelings. You know, in Harmony and Chaos, I at least gave you guys some of what I thought, my theory on Chrysalis. So that was my own personal theory on Chrysalis. I knew nothing of the theory of her being the possible queen of the Crystal Empire. Yeah, kind of like that, Michael. He says, like, for example, Twilight was going to be a princess at the end of the series rather than the middle. Yeah. So I think one of the reasons why the story writers did it that way was because they wanted Twilight to be the ruler of Equestria by the end of it. It just goes to show you how different story writers, how different show writers act. Again, I seem to bring this up every live stream, but like M.A. Larson, I met M.A. Larson at a pony convention. He always said that if he was going to write the series finale of MLP, it would have been with Rarity and Spike getting married. The series would have ended with Spike and Rarity's wedding. But we saw how MLP really ended. It ended completely different because M.A. Larson is not the one who wrote it. So it just goes to show you it depends who writes these episodes. I don't know if they all get together in a room and they said, okay, we're on season 7 of My Little Pony. We're going to start the season here and we need to end the season here. And every writer, we're going to give you a concept. You're going to write the episode. I don't know if that's how they do it or how it's done, but again, you can see how different writers have different ideas. So I personally would have preferred seeing Spike and Rarity get married. I wish M.A. Larson would have wrote the series finale. That would have been a perfect way to end the series. But we didn't get that. So moving back into the episode, I want to get into it. We get into this. The fight begins between Shadow and Infinite, and well, I should say Sonic and Shadow versus Infinite. Basically, the fight starts off. Infinite starts just chucking red cubes at him. Shadow and Sonic dodge. They dodge the red cubes. Sonic goes in for a punch. Infinite teleports away from it. And he tells Sonic, you better be capable of better, Sonic, or otherwise you're going to die. Infinite, not paying attention to Shadow, gets blindsided by Shadow and completely floored. Shadow starts off with the very early advantage on Infinite. He starts off with the early advantage. Infinite would eventually turn the tables with using the Phantom Ruby. As we would see that he's able to use the Phantom Ruby and manipulate it in really odd ways. So as Shadow is flying at him to continue his assault, Infinite literally just uses the Phantom Ruby's powers to shove Shadow out of the way. And then it kind of disorients Shadow. We've seen Infinite in the video game. We've seen Infinite flip rooms upside down. He did that to Philia. In this episode, he's also able to switch spots with his victim, as would come into play later on. But in this instance, he uses the Phantom Ruby as kind of like this like force of energy that knocks Shadow away. It disorients Shadow, and then he goes on the offensive, starts attacking Shadow. Sonic would come to Shadow's aid. We see Infinite ask for help. He asks Chrysalis for help. Chrysalis says that she is busy dealing with Thorax and his group of do-gooding pony lovers. But she winds up sending about 400 changelings to help. So she orders at least half the changelings that are left, which is about 800. So she sends 400 changelings to go help Infinite. They surround Sonic and Shadow. Sonic starts the melee off with a punch, and Shadow says, to hell with this. I'm just going to use a Chaos Spear and just fucking obliterate everything. So he winds up taking out about 100 changelings with his Chaos Spears. And Sonic's like, gee, why didn't I think of that? Why didn't I use my magic? Oh, well, whatever. So yada, yada, yada. This fight continues between Sonic, Shadow, and the changelings. At one point, Shadow gets kind of roughed up by the changelings. He gets blasted by a synchronized attack. Sonic and then again has to come. Infinite gives Shadow a laugh. He's kind of like chuckling, "You're getting roughed up, Shadow." Rainbow Dash then interjects herself into this battle. She comes flying in and kicks Infinite through Twilight's castle. He lands inside the castle and just decides to stay in there. Rainbow Dash tells Sonic and Shadow that everybody is at Sweet Apple Acres and that everything is fine. She asks about Philia. Shadow says, "To hell with that. I'm going after Infinite." And then Sonic says, "Well, Philia's fine. She was taken to the hospital." Then the changelings surround Rainbow Dash and Sonic. And Sonic says, "Look, we don't really have time." He's like, "I'll explain everything when we're not locked in a battle for Equestria." And Sonic also tells Rainbow Dash, "There's something that I need to tell you." What Sonic was going to tell Rainbow Dash was about Jules. But we would come to find out at the end of the episode, Rainbow Dash finds out about Jules on her own. But that was the thing that Sonic wanted to tell her, but he was like, "I'll tell you when we're not fighting." He's like, "But there is something I need to tell you." And that was it. He was going to tell Rainbow Dash about Jules. So we go into Twilight's castle where Shadow has foolishly followed Infinite in. So I feel like I need to explain this scene because I feel like this scene is very confusing. So, when Shadow gets in the castle, keep in mind in the video game, in the Sonic Forces video game, Infinite is able to create virtual reality or like clones. He's able to create these real live clones with the Phantom Ruby. So he does this, except he uses Philia as one of his clones. So as Shadow is in the castle looking for Infinite, he can hear Philia pleading for help. But it's not really Philia, it's really one of the Phantom Ruby clones that Infinite created. Shadow just hears Philia heal so quickly. Hopefully I didn't lose the connection. I swear to God. Okay, we're back. Again, the wind is knocking out. I hope. Let me go back because the wind knocked my internet out briefly again. So he used the Phantom Ruby to create a Philia clone, and Shadow hears that she's in distress, and we see him like debating with himself, like, "Wait, how did she heal so fast, and how did she even know I was here, like in the castle?" So he's kind of skeptical, like, okay. And it's not until she really starts to cuss and scream and fucking help me this time. So Shadow's like, fuck. So he doesn't want to take any chances, and he goes foolishly up to the second floor, and he spots Philia kind of like coming down the corridor. And he even asks, like, he's like, "Where's Infinite?" And he's kind of shocked to see that she's okay. At this point, the evil Philia clone gives a smirk and then disappears. When she disappears, Infinite is behind Shadow, and he's and he literally takes a swipe at Shadow. Shadow just happened to, at the very last second, turn around and dodge the sword from decapitating him. But as we see, the sword kind of catches Shadow on the cheek as he's like, ugh, and he gets like a cut on his cheek. So like, yeah. After that happens, the fight immediately continues. Shadow doesn't really have time to contemplate what just happened. He's like, fuck. And then Infinite again teleports next to Shadow, and he goes to slice Shadow in half. So as Infinite is bringing the sword down, Shadow grabs him by the wrist, and they're in this power struggle. So once Shadow kind of like gains control of power in this struggle, he punches Infinite into the wall, and then they kind of have like a really quick melee. Infinite winds up getting a quick kick in on Shadow, and he kind of wise-assly says, you look scared, and I can't blame you, Shadow. You've come to the realization that you may die today. And then he goes into like how he's going to have his vengeance about how Shadow took out his squad on Mobius. Shadow rushes Infinite, punches him to the outside of Twilight's castle. Shadow then charges after him, flies out of the castle after him. And at this point, just as Shadow was flying at him, Infinite uses the Phantom Ruby. So picture like Infinite just kind of like flying, like just getting punched through the castle and just kind of soaring through the air, seeing Shadow flying at him. He then uses the Phantom Ruby to switch places with Shadow. So now instead of Shadow flying at him and Infinite soaring, now Shadow is the one just randomly soaring, and then now Infinite is the one flying towards Shadow, and he kicks Shadow into the ground. And that's where we see Shadow like, oh, what the fuck just happened? And yeah. So it's Infinite's doing all these really cool, crazy things with with this Phantom Ruby. At some point, Shadow is able to kind of regain his composure, and he gets the upper hand. So again, the fight swings back in Shadow's favor, to the point where he kind of knocks Infinite to the ground. And as he knocks Infinite to the ground, more changelings go after Shadow. So more changelings go after him. He gets into this fight with the changelings. And at the very end, he blasts this changeling. Shadow winds up blasting a changeling, like literally with a chaos blast. He's holding the changeling by his horn as he blasts this changeling in the face with a chaos blast. So you can just imagine like what that would look like. And Shadow was literally just left holding a horn. So after that, Shadow kind of turns his attention as he's looking for Infinite. He's not really paying attention, but a changeling tries to do a sneak attack and stab Shadow, and we see Silver come in for the save. But it's not really Silver. So Shadow starts to talk to Infinite, who's disguised as Silver. And he says, did you see where Infinite went? And Silver's like, yeah, I think he went back inside the castle. And ironically enough, Shadow goes, yeah, he's probably back in there getting ready to spring another trap on me. Like I said, ironically, he's already springing a trap on you, Shadow, because he's turned into Silver. So as he's having a conversation with Silver, keep in mind, Infinite is distracting him. Who comes up behind who comes up behind Shadow? Chrysalis comes flying up behind Shadow and like impales him like right around this area, like right underneath the shoulder blade. So missed his heart. So he wound up getting it like in this area, like right underneath the shoulder. So Chrysalis has him on the horn. We see Sonic attack Infinite, and then Chrysalis. Well, before that, we've Infinite, still disguised as Silver, gives Chrysalis props. He's like, nice teamwork. And then he goes into his Infinite voice, and then he exposes the Phantom Ruby, which is in his hands. Now, keep in mind, Infinite learned a lesson from his fight with Philia. Because if you remember in the prior episode, Philia spotted the Phantom Ruby on Infinite. She saw the Phantom Ruby on his chest. So when he shapeshifted, that's how she knew he was a changeling, because she saw the Phantom Ruby on him. So in this instance, Infinite took the Phantom Ruby off and kind of like held on to it in his hands. So then he shows that he's got the Phantom Ruby. And that's when the realization hits Shadow that, yeah, that was Infinite, not Silver. So then we see Sonic get in. He attacks Infinite. And then Chrysalis uses Shadow for leverage and says, if you take one more step toward me, Hedgehog, I'll splatter this hedgehog all over Ponyville. So, Sonic, it's like, I don't give a shit. And keep in mind, Sonic is super fast. He's like, I don't care. So Sonic still blitzes Chrysalis, punches her so hard that Shadow flies off the horn and just kind of falls towards the ground. Meanwhile, Chrysalis is off laying somewhere. And then Infinite gets back into the fight, or that's not what happens. So after Sonic knocks Infinite across the terrain, he tends to Shadow and he tells Rainbow Dash, get Shadow to Cosmo now before he loses too much blood. Get him to Cosmo, get him healed. And Rainbow Dash says, okay. Now, Michael Collins, I will explain the Bo-kun part, because now here we are. Okay, so we get to this part where Rainbow Dash, Sonic helps Shadow on top of Rainbow Dash. She flies off towards Sweet Apple Acres with Shadow. Now, as she's flying off, Bo-kun kind of quietly and silently and from somewhat of a distance is flying behind Rainbow Dash. Now, the reason he's following Rainbow Dash is he wants to see where she's going. And at the end of, near the end of this episode, where Bo-kun is actually at Sweet Apple Acres, he notices that Cosmo is healing Shadow, and he also sees that Twilight is there, the Princess of Friendship. So he brings all of this information. In episode 104, we're going to see why Bo-kun followed. And he's got a lot of information to share with Chrysalis. So there you see, recon. Of course, it's recon, as Elijah said. Bo-kun wants to see where she's going, literally. So he can report back to Chrysalis as to what is really going on. So to answer your question, Michael Collins, that's why Bo-kun followed Rainbow Dash. You're going to see why in episode 104. I was trying not to spoil it. So, again, sometimes some questions are better not asked. So, I hope I didn't spoil it too much. I'm trying not to. So, he's essentially, Bo-kun is on a recon mission, like Elijah said. He's there to gather information and to see where is Rainbow Dash taking him. So at this point, we get back into the fight. Now it's strictly Sonic versus Infinite. I would like to say Sonic absolutely bodies Infinite in this entire sequence. I don't think Infinite is able to really land one offensive maneuver on Sonic. The only thing he does do to Sonic, I think he pushes Sonic back or something with some sort of force or something. But like Sonic, at one point, Infinite decides to rush at Sonic. He teleports at the last second and tries to throw a punch. Sonic knows this is coming. He literally grabs Infinite by his arms and he literally spins Infinite around in a circle, just spinning. And then he throws Infinite straight into the ground. So as Infinite is lying face down on the ground, Sonic's like, I always wanted to try this. And then this is just me being a geek and me having my own little fandom with Dragon Ball Z. This is kind of like my little like tribute to DBZ. Oh, my cats are fighting great. I got to check the cats. Hold on. They're hissing. Hey! What the hell's going on out here? Stop it. Fucking cats. Ugh. Loco, get your butt in here. What would a live stream be without a cat? So my boyfriend's cat is in the other room hissing at my cat, Loco. So yes. A literal cat fight. Poor Loco. Like every time she hisses at him, he's like, don't hurt me. It's actually kind of cute and funny at the same time. But then there are times where she can be in the same room with him and they don't hiss at each other. I don't get it. So anyway, where did I leave off? So this is my like little ode to me being a DBZ geek. And I, you know, when you're going through Google and you're seeing all these images, you actually see, I saw the cool art of like Sonic doing a Kamehameha wave. So I just thought it would be cool to implement it. So Sonic does a Kamehameha and literally decimates Infinite to the point where he has got some injuries. Sonic explains, he's like, a little technique I learned from watching anime on Earth, you bastard. So Sonic literally says, well, I watched Dragon Ball Z on Earth with Chris. So, that's where I got this technique from. It was a little stab at humor. I want to say it was really a stab at humor, but it was just kind of like my way of honoring DBZ, kind of like in a kind of like a realistic way. So of course I had to explain it. Like, yeah, Sonic was watching DBZ on Earth with Chris. That's how he learned it. So I just thought it was funny, a funny way to implement it. But after the Kamehameha hits Infinite, it's shown that Infinite has got some major facial injuries to him. And then Sonic, this is becoming a season 4 thing with Sonic. I don't know why. I just decided to implement the Sonic Says thing from the Sonic Underground. I don't know if it was Sonic Underground series or if it was the Adventures of Sonic. It was either Sonic Underground or the second Sonic series in the 90s. I'm trying to remember which one it was, where he does the Sonic Says, that's no good. So I don't know why in season 4 I'm implementing these Sonic Says moments, but I am. And he tells Infinite, Sonic says you should have kept your safety helmet on, Infinite. And I know some people are probably asking, well, why did Infinite take his mask off? 2 reasons. One, the mask was damaged when he crashed through Twilight's castle. Number 2, Infinite wanted to like kill Shadow. He wanted to kill Shadow and actually see Shadow dying. He wanted to physically watch Shadow die with his own eyes. Like watch life leave Shadow's eyes. Which is why another reason he took the mask off. But Sonic literally smart ass. Sonic says you should have left your safety helmet on, Infinite. Which I just thought was a funny line. It was Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog. Thank you, Elijah. Yeah, I knew it was one of the ones. I knew it was one of the 2 from the 90s. I did not watch the Adventures of Sonic as much as I did Sonic Underground. By that time, I was probably 12 or 13 when Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog came out. So I was more into nighttime drama. So I think that series came out in 95, 96. I've actually watched more of that series as an adult. And they don't always do the Sonic Says parts either. So, but yeah. Let's see. So we get this little dialogue between Sonic and Infinite, where Infinite says, "How dare you make this personal, Sonic? You know, I wanted you to be at my side." And Sonic's like, "Huh? Why?" He's like, "I would never join you. Why don't you do the right thing and actually surrender, hand over the Phantom Ruby, and join? Excuse me, and join us. We could use a powerful Jackal on our team." And Sonic tries to sway him further by says, "You know, you can make some new friends and, you know, have some new adventures, maybe have fun." And that's when Infinite laughs at him and calls it preposterous nonsense. You know, I had a family and I had to watch as Shadow obliterated what was left of them. So I cannot live in peace with that hedgehog. So as we would see that it's probably not right now, it's not in the cards that Sonic is going to get Infinite to change. Um, Again, Infinite tells Sonic it's a respect. He just has a respect for Sonic. Um, and that's really what it is with Infinite as it pertains to Sonic. He does kind of have this respect for him. Um, we saw it in the when we saw it when Sonic was on Eggman's ship. That Infinite said, "Look, you're a legend, Sonic. I'm not just gonna kill you when you're weak. You know, I have more respect for you than that. You deserve better." Um, so as that sequence comes to an end, the episode starts to somewhat slow down a little bit. Um, I wanted at this point to go to the Crystal Empire. Because keep in mind, there's a battle brewing up there. Infinite has sent a squad of 547 changelings up to the Crystal Empire. I don't know why it's 547. It was a 500 number. And I'm like, I just want some random 500 number in my head. 547 is a very odd number. We're going to go with 547 because it's an odd number. Who thinks of 547? So it's just a randomly odd number. That's just a random number that I'm like, that makes sense. It's not 200 or 225 or 525, a nice round equal number. No, it's just a splotch of 547. So yeah, that's where I came up with it. It was just a random ass number. You guys can laugh. I literally sat there and was like, what number do I use? Oh, 547 is the first number I thought of. Okay. All right. So we roll on with this scene, and Eggman, Boku, and Deku are watching the changelings kind of gather up around where the barrier is. And they're like, well, Doctor, we may have a problem here. And he's like, what is it? What are those creatures? Boku, being the smarter one, is like, I believe those are the changelings. And by my count, there's 547 of them. 547, huh? That's it? Well, my bots should have no problem taking them down. And then Princess Cadence was like, yeah, you know, I wouldn't underestimate them, Dr. Eggman. They're quite ruthless and they will fight to the death. Well, I've got the Crystal Heart protecting my empire. So good luck with them trying to get through. Well, there's the other thing, Eggman. The Crystal Heart kind of works off of love and positive emotions. You kind of took that away when you took over the Crystal Empire. So, yeah, the Crystal Heart may not be as powerful as you think. And then we start to see that the changelings are starting to break through. General Eberron tells his squad to stop. Like, no, you idiots. Save your energy. Instead of exerting all that energy trying to break through the barrier, remember, we got to shoot like a synchronized blast at it to shadow the barrier. So Eberron gets all of his changelings together and they all fire a synchronized energy blast that shatters the weakened barrier. And then the changelings start to assault the Crystal Empire. Eggman's robot army then is told and ordered to attack. Then we get this big Star Wars-esque battle in the Crystal Empire where Eggman's bots are shooting these pew, 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 pew. They're the ones with the Star Wars weapons, by the way. The Changelings' energy beams don't sound like Star Wars weapons. It's Eggman's bots that I'm giving the Star Wars sound effects to. So there you go. I'll clarify that right now. It's Eggman's bots who have the Star Wars weapons. It's okay. The X Tornado is going to sound like a TIE fighter in episode 104. When the X Tornado zooms past the Crystal Palace, it's going to sound like a TIE fighter, like when it zooms past. So yeah, there you go. I know I'm such a geek when it comes to like Star Wars and Dragon Ball, and yeah, I'm that geek. Anyway, I digress. So the battle starts in the Crystal Empire. So then General Eberron decides to make a pass at the palace because his thing is to collect Eggman's head. That's literally what Infinite told him to do. I am tasking you with delivering me Eggman's head in my hands. So he flies toward the palace. He gets a bunch of changelings to go with him, and they shatter the overlook window in Cadence's throne room. They got that kind of like overlook window in their throne room that kind of overlooks the palace. So Elijah's like, why not an X-Wing? I like the sound of a TIE fighter, Elijah. The X-Wings don't sound as cool. X-Wing or TIE fighter? I like TIE fighter better. Yeah. So yeah, it's good. I know it would make sense with an X-Wing considering the X-Tornado is an X-Wing, but I just like the sound of a TIE fighter. I can't help it. So Elijah says, fair enough, it'd be too much of a pun. Anyway, yeah, I'm that kind of, like I said, I'm that kind of geek. Michael Collins asks, wait, if Sonya and Manic are in, why weren't Sleet and Dingo? Sleet and Dingo, they are not. Sonya and Manic, I always wanted to add them because I think Sonya and Manic were done dirty. If you're going to ask me, they were done dirty by canon. They should have never have not been in the series moving forward. So Sonya and Manic should have always been part of the Dragon Ball series. Brandon Henderson asks, will Dragon Lord Ember? Yes. Yes. Lord Ember will be in the series. Yes. I get that, but Sonya and Manic are I debated on bringing Manic into the series. I wasn't sure about Sonya, but when I made the decision to bring in Manic, I'm like, no, I want Manic in the series. I was just a matter of, okay, now how do I get Sonya in it? So I definitely wanted the siblings to be in it. Like I said, I had it planned that Sonic and Shadow were going to be brothers from the start. Because it's Sonic and Shadow have been teased. It's been teased that they potentially could be brothers. I know it's not the case, but I kind of wanted to lean into that because I like the idea that Sonic and Shadow could be brothers. So that's why I said from the very beginning of this series, I had that planned out that at some point Sonic and Shadow were going to find out they were brothers. But no, Brandon. Definitely Lord Ember is going to be in Harmony and Chaos at some point. So moving on. We're up in the so we see that Eberron and a group of changelings shadow the overlook window of the Crystal Palace throne room. Cadence and Eggman are both knocked down from the Force. Cadence comes to first. She uses this as her opportunity to flee the throne room and go find Flurry Heart, so she can exile. So she leaves the throne room. She's able to escape. Eggman and his bots. Eggman gets surrounded by his egg pawns to protect him. At this point, General Eberron and a couple of changelings have landed inside the throne room to collect Eggman's head. Even General Eberron, when asked by Eggman, he literally tells Eggman, "I'm here to collect your head for Master Infinite." And Eggman's like, "That dirty, miserable jackal." So the egg pawns start this fight off with Eberron and the changelings. This is where Boku and Deku decide that they're going to help Eggman up off the floor and get him to safety. They suggest Eggman going back to Northern Equestria, back to their base that they have up by Tall Tale. Eggman says, "No, I'm going to stay here and make an example out of these changelings. Is Neo Metal ready yet?" And I know some of you are like, "Whoa, Neo Metal?" Yes, Eggman is preparing Neo Metal. It was part of the things that got jettisoned right before the. If you remember from episode 2 of this season, when they're up in the Egg Destroyer, the bots, Boku and Deku, wound up jettisoning a bunch of escape pods. Now, these escape pods had all of the bots and parts that Eggman was going to work on in the future. So they jettison all these parts. They all kind of fall down to Equestria right before the Egg Destroyer was destroyed. One of the things that they had in there were some parts to make Neo Metal Sonic. One of the things that Eggman is going to do, he was going to either merge Sonic with Metal or he was going to merge Metal with Neo to kind of make Neo, which is my take on it. Obviously, that's not going to happen per se. So they right now are trying to salvage as much of Metal Sonic as they can, which like his microchip, any of his power cells that they could use to enhance Neo Metal. One of the robots, I don't remember if it was Boku or Deku, tell Eggman, no, he's nowhere near being complete yet. He's still being completed at our base. Now, who you might ask, who is working Eggman's base? If Eggman, Boku, and Deku are in the Crystal Empire, who was up at the base? Well, Eggman has Orbot and Cubot kind of doing the thing up at the base. They're running the operation up there, building bots, helping build Neo. So we shockingly find out that Neo Metal is a thing. So he's currently being built, and the boss said he's nowhere near done. We haven't even implemented the Phantom Rubies, the prototype rubies. We haven't even implemented that into his being yet. He's not ready. And Eggman's like, "Well, what about my battle bots? Is that ready?" And they say, "Yes, your battle bot is here. It's in the armory. We'll take you to it. Follow us." So as Eggman and his bots are trying to get to their Eggman's battle bot, they get ambushed by a group of changelings who crash through the windows. Eggman pulls out a gun and like a laser gun and starts shooting these changelings. Boku and Deku also have blasters. They use their arms and they turn their arms into guns and they wind up shooting down changelings. So they made quick work of that group of changelings. Next part of the sequence, we go to the nursery where Princess Cadence has been reunited with her daughter, Flurry Heart. Flurry Heart is being protected by guards. Thank goodness. So she at least has guards protecting her. Princess Cadence urges the guard ponies to vacate and leave because she, as she says, I'm no princess. He has my alicorn magic. I am no princess. And the guards chime. The one guard literally says, "You'll always be our princess, Princess Cadence. What would you like us to do?" And then this is where she says, "Flurry Heart and I will exile at Sunburst's house because again, Princess Cadence does not want to abandon the Crystal Empire. So she feels that if she can exile at Sunburst, she doesn't think that Eggman, again, she doesn't have any Alicorn magic. So there's no way Eggman could track her or anything. So having no magic to trace, she figures I can take shelter at Sunbursts. Sunburst is my personalized, Sunburst is a part of Cadence's team. I don't think I forget what his title is. It's been a while since I've seen the episode. I don't know if he was like her sorcerer or just like an advisor of some kind. I think Sunburst is definitely an advisor of some kind to Princess Cadence. So she figures that her and Flurry Heart can exile in the Crystal Empire there while they wait for Sonic to rescue them. Princess Cadence also asks the guard ponies, does Eggman know about the secret passageways? Because Cadence used those passageways, and she wants to use them to essentially get out of the castle unnoticed. So they said the guards don't believe that Eggman's troops or forces have used the passageways. They don't think that Eggman knows about them. So the goal is to use the passageway system. After that, we go to Sweet Apple Acres. Oh, that's right. Yeah, Sunburst is Flurry Heart's crystallizer or crystaller. That's right. But I thought, I thought he accepted a job of some kind. I thought he took like an advisor's job or something. I think he was. I think Starlight was trying to convince Sunburst to move to Ponyville, and I think Sunburst said something like, "Well, no, I kind of assist Princess Cadence up in the Crystal Empire. I'm kind of like an advisor, or like he watches over the magic or something. He's like the warlord or wizard or something. Like he does some kind of sorcery to watch over the Crystal Heart or something. So I don't know. I know he works. He has some kind of job with Cadence. So we go to Sweet Apple Acres, and this is where we kind of see like our heroes are just kind of just sitting there. Vector, Charmy, and Espio are having a conversation. Espio says, "I feel bad that we're here and everybody else is out fighting." And Vector's like, "Well, what do you expect, Espio? We're just normal dudes. We can't fight stuff like that." And he said, "And besides, somebody's got to be here with the kids." And then Twilight chimes in and says, "Well, how do you think?" She says, "Imagine how I feel being one of the most powerful ponies on the planet, and I can't even help out my friends. Because I'm." And then that's when Charmy says, "Well, you have a baby to protect." Thanks, Charmy. So as this scene progresses, Rainbow Dash very frantically shows up with Shadow. Cosmo immediately heals Shadow. And as Cosmo is healing Shadow, Bo-kun is kind of sneaking up by a window, peeking in and watching what's happening. And then that's when he spots that Princess Twilight is there and that some of the heroes are using this area as kind of like where they're doing their healing. So now Bokun is going to run and tell Chrysalis and Infinite about this Sweet Apple Acres and about like where the healing is and like where Princess Twilight is. So keep that in mind. So as this scene progresses, Bokun kind of flies off once he flies off to report back to Chrysalis and Infinite. Shadow is healed, but he's weak from the amount of blood he lost. So Shadow can't just go and jump back into the battle. He's got to kind of rest for a little while and regain his strength because he did lose a lot of blood. So he's got to eat some food. He's got to get some water. He's got to eat stuff and get some iron in him so he can, regain his strength. Iron replenishes blood cells. So he's trying to figure out things to eat and drink and to just kind of revamp from the amount of blood loss. In this moment, Bonnet asks Shadow, "Where's Philia?" And Shadow doesn't want to worry Bonnet. He doesn't want to, because he knows what Philia means to Bonnet, so he doesn't want to worry her. So he's like, well, again, just like he did earlier with Sonic, now's not the time to discuss this, Bonnet. Don't worry about it. She'll be fine. And she's like, and then we see Bonnet get nasty. Like, she gets nasty when she has to. Like, where the hell is Philia, Shadow? And he's like, oh, she was taken to the hospital, all right? Now, keep in mind, Shadow wasn't there, so he doesn't know how Philia got her injuries. He just knows that she lost a lot of blood. Bonnet is frantic, goes to rush out the farmhouse. Shadow, being weak right now, goes to try to grab Bonnet, but as he does so, kind of like topples over and knocks Bonnet to the ground with him. And he tells Bonnet, "You're not going anywhere. It's far too dangerous out there. You're going to get yourself killed." She literally takes her foot and kind of like just gently pushes Shadow off her and goes out after Philia on her own. Twilight, knowing that she's not going to be able to stop Bonnet, decides to send Rainbow Dash to take her. I don't know why Rainbow Dash is the taxi cab in this episode, but she just is. I guess that's her being the element of loyalty. Let's see. After that, Rainbow Dash flies outside and she tells Bonnet that she's going to take her to go see Philia and that she can get her there pretty quick. Bonnet's taken aback at first because she's a little nervous about riding on Rainbow Dash's back. Obviously, flying in a plane is a lot different than flying on the back of a Pegasus. I don't think I'd ever do it. But Rainbow Dash assures Bonnet that she's going to fly slow and low. So if by some chance Bonnet were to fall off, it's not going to be at a high speed or at a high height. Really, the only thing that Rainbow Dash needs to avoid is any of the battle that's going on at Twilight's castle, which I think the heroes have done a really good job of keeping the battle near Twilight's castle and not in Ponyville. So almost all of the fighting is happening at Twilight's castle. So Bonnet reluctantly agrees. Her and Rainbow Dash takes Bonnet to Ponyville Hospital. The very last part of this scene, Twilight and Shadow are having a discussion. And Twilight basically just wants to know what happened. Shadow kind of briefly explains about what happened and that he met, and that not only did he find out about Sonic and him being brothers, but they also were reunited with their father. And Twilight at first So Twilight at first is kind of shocked by this news. Like, your father, like your father is here in Equestria, kind of like taken aback. And Shadow says, "Yeah, apparently he's been here before any of us, because I sensed him from day one. I knew he was here. I never went to sought him out because I was afraid I was going to kill him for what he did to Felia and I." Um, and he also tells Twilight that's one of the reasons why tensions were so high between him and Sonic, for so long, was because of the fact that Sonic and Jules look so much alike, which is why Shadow does treat Sonic pretty badly early on and when they met each other. So Shadow, after he tells Twilight this, we go to Ponyville Hospital. And this is where things get a little shocking for Rainbow Dash. They get to Felia's room. I'm not going to explain the little banter between Bonnet and Dash. They get to Felia's room, and Bonnet is shocked at Felia's state. And she's actually horrified to see Felia in as bad of a shape she's in. She's never seen Felia hurt. So to see her in that kind of condition, she kind of just screams out, "Felia!" And that's when we see Jules jump out of his chair and say, "Who are you, human?" Before Bonnet can answer, Rainbow Dash chimes in like, "Who is this guy? He looks just like Sonic." And then Jules tells Rainbow Dash, knows Rainbow Dash by name. Of course he would know Rainbow Dash by name because he's been watching from a distance. And he was also at Sonic and Rainbow Dash's wedding. Just wasn't in the wedding. He was watching from a window, as we would come to find out. So anyway, Jules says, "It's finally nice to meet you officially, Rainbow Dash. I'm Sonic's father." And Felia's too. And the episode literally ends with Rainbow Dash. So I know how much you guys love those cliffhangers, but I promise next episode, Jules starts to explain some things. That's right. Solar says, Jules really said, "Surprise, I'm going to stare through a window now." Yes, Michael Collins. Jules has been there before anybody else. Not the ponies. He's been there before all the other Mobians, though. And again, patience. Patience, patience, patience. No, Solar, I need to eat my dinner. It's 9:47. I need to go out and get dinner. So I am not going to go on Discord because I'm also recording for you after this. Yeah, I got to do some voicing. So I'll be on Discord after I finish some lines. So, yep. So anyway, because if I don't do it tonight, Solar, I don't know when I will get to voicing again. I am pretty busy. This entire weekend, I'm booked solid. Next week, I can tell you right now, things are picking up. So I'm going to be pretty busy next week. We are going into summertime holidays, which also means I'm going to be busy with that as well. So my time is starting to shrink again. Brandon Henderson asks, will Queen Nabo and Princess Skystar be in Harmony and Chaos? They already have been. Queen Nabo and Princess Skystar have already been in the series. Yes, they have. Season 2. We see Queen Nabo and Princess Skystar. I don't know about Skystar. I don't remember if Skystar is in it. I don't remember because it's been so long since I've watched the episode. Queen Nabo for sure, because Sonic and Rainbow Dash are on their honeymoon when they meet Queen Nabo. and stuff. But yeah, Queen Navo, it's only one episode though. Queen Navo and Princess Skystar are in the series. It's only one episode though. Solar, you know as well as I do, Elijah's the one who's good at guessing schemes and dialogue. I'm not even going to guess where you're going with your series. Flim Flam Brothers will not be in Harmony and Chaos. They are. I'm not planning on it. Iron Will, yes. I cannot not put Iron Will in. I have to have Iron Will in. I gotta have him in there. I like Iron Will's funny. Flim Flam that's a tongue twister. Flim Flam Brothers, I'm not big fans of, and I don't think they add anything important to the series. If I do, it's gonna be very just random. But right as of right now, I have no intention on the Flim Flam Brothers. I'm just glancing at you guys in the chat. Anywho, so that was the episode. It ends in a shocker with Rainbow Dash coming face to face with Jules. Oh, watch JD from New York. Yes, SmackDown is over in 10 minutes. So, wrestling podcast is starting. But yeah, that was at the end of episode 103. So if you guys have any last minute things you want to ask, I will say this again to reiterate, this is the first live stream. I am using my brand new computer. It looks like the resolution of the camera on this thing is great. Like everything looks really sharp on it. Apparently, there's a new brony called Discord Jedi Knights. I highly suggest that you check out his channel and all his videos. I will have to look at that. I don't know why, but I did have one of his videos recommended to me about a month ago. It was about a month, maybe 3 weeks ago. But I have seen his stuff. Ugh. I will have to check that out, Brandon. Michael Collins asked, why does Solaria tell you things like you're doomed? I don't envy you. That's just Solar being Solar. She likes to pick on the geezer. Yes, that's my nickname, the geezer. So anytime you see geezer, she's talking to me. When am I ever ready? Oh, come on. Really, Elijah? Brandon Henderson says there's another brony called MLP Dymos. He apparently doesn't think Starlight is evil. Well, she was, but she reformed. Really, Solar? All right. Oh, man. Well, like I said, it's going on 10. I kind of want to cut it. If you guys have anything last minute, get your stuff in now. I'm not even playing background music as an outro like I normally do. Just because I got to get something to eat. I ate lunch during watching baseball, but that was like 10 hours ago. No. Yeah, that was more like 9 hours ago. I ate at like 1 o'clock. So I'm pretty hungry. And then I got to voice Shadow and Spike for Solaria. So, yeah. I agree with you, Michael Collins. I didn't think Starlight was evil. just misguided. Although I do find her reason for turning evil to be absolutely freaking ridiculous. I think it was more jealousy because Sunburst was going off to the crystal, because Sunburst was going off to magic school or something, and she wasn't. I just think it was ridiculous how mad she got over it. Yeah, it was kind of silly. Yeah, Chrysalis is definitely evil. She wasn't. See, and that's the thing. I don't think. I think there's so much more, and this is why I'm so upset that we're not getting any more My Little Pony. Because I feel like they half-assed every single fucking villain. Excuse my French. I feel like they half-assed every fucking villain backstory. Like they didn't give you any backstory for Chrysalis. You got bits and pieces of Sombra, but I feel like with King Sombra, you didn't get the whole damn story. Tirek, I feel like Lord Tirek was the only one we actually got a backstory where it's like, oh, okay. I see what this is. Okay, it's just a guy wanting to take over a planet. Okay, great. That's pretty self-explanatory. Especially with Chrysalis, I feel like there's so much more to Chrysalis's backstory than what we will ever know in MLP. And if they went and they told stories about Chrysalis canon and they did it in comic books, shame on them. Shame on them for not bringing that into the series. Because not everybody likes to read comics. Not everybody likes to read, period. So if it's something that's canonized in a comic book, that's something you should have added to the backstory of a character while you're in series. Is it me, or am I the only one who feels like we got no backstory for Chrysalis at all? Is it just me, or am I hitting a point? Because I literally feel like with every MLP villain, we don't get enough of a backstory. Same thing with the Storm King. Did we get we got no backstory on the Storm King other than he was this ruler of the Stormlands that happens to be on the same planet as Equestria. That's all we really got. There was really no backstory with the Storm King either. It's just a guy attacking Equestria. Which is why people like me and creators like me have to come up with theories about backstories on Chrysalis. Like I said, when I came up with Chrysalis's backstory for Harmony and Chaos, there was no backstory for Chrysalis. So I was like, she had to turn evil somehow. She has wings. She has a horn. Was she an alicorn that turned evil? Is it a demon? She feeds on love. Did she make a deal with Grogar? Originally? Who knows? Yeah. Michael Collins says there's a lot of books. Again, I'm strictly TV. So what you're getting out of me is what I've seen on the television series. But yeah, I know pony lore. I know the alicorn. There's more lore out there. And really that explains more of Nightmare Moon too, like how the helmet, her little helmet that she wears is really the basis of her power. That's out there. I'm sure there's all kinds of comics and books and stuff that I haven't even seen. Elijah says, I think you've got a point on that. We see Chrysalis first pop up as a fake Cadence, and we don't really know more behind that. Yeah. So again, I ask. This was, and correct me if I'm wrong, Chrysalis's attack on Cadence's wedding was before the Crystal Empire. It was before Cadence and Shining Armor go to the Crystal Empire, right? Because the Crystal Empire hadn't reappeared yet. So what is Chrysalis's hatred toward Cadence? Or was it literally just aimed at Celestia, like she said? I don't know. I just feel like there's so much more about Chrysalis that they didn't tell us that they should have. Like you just know that there was one hell of a backstory with Chrysalis. And again, shame on you for not putting that on the television show. It's the same thing with Sonic Forces. Most of the fucking story of Sonic Forces is between Shadow and Infinite. The conflict is Shadow and Infinite. And you got none of that in the video game, completely omitted. You got nothing from Shadow in the video game that explains how he attacked Infinite's squad. Going after the Phantom Ruby. Brandon Henderson, final verdict on making the Princesses of Harmony canon to Harmony and Chaos. I'm not sure yet. If I want the girls to be with their Hedgehog spouses so they don't die, maybe. I haven't figured that out yet. Oh my God. So Brandon Henderson asks, will that red Bosser-like creature from that stained glass window in the background of the last problem be in Harmony and Chaos? That's a good catch. I don't even remember seeing that. Wow, Bosser-like. Will that red Bosser-like creature? I'm going to have to go back and watch that. I honestly did not see that. I'm going to have to find that. Wow, that good bringing that up, Brandon. I didn't even notice it. Solar asks, will the geezer figure out my scheme based on the hints of Orange and Elijah, or will he pull a stupid? So Hunter is going to be in your show? I'm in Central Illinois, Brandon. The tornado threat is further south. Michael Collins says, I like that you base Sonic lore off X and Underground, as the Archie comics, as the lore of that was very convoluted near the reboot. Yeah, and see, Michael, here's the funny thing about Sonic lore. I mean, there are so many different canons of Sonic lore. The Archie comics were once canon. Now they're not canon. It just seems like every time we have like multiple canons of Sonic. Even the shows are different, like Sonic Underground, Sonic Adventures, Manic and Sonia not being canonized after that. I do agree with you. I do base most of my Sonic lore for Harmony and Chaos off of X, basically, with the exception of Manic and Sonia, and Silver. Oh, I thought you. Okay, so Brandon Henderson specifies when I said when I said Bosser like, I meant Bowser like, because I'm sitting there going, there was a red Bosser like creature that I missed in the windows. I have to go back and watch that now. Elijah's right, Solar. You gave it away by mentioning Orange. Oh man. All right. I'm gonna cut this stream. Before we do that, I'm just enthralled by Brandon Henderson and his EF2 tornadoes because we haven't had any storms. I know a lot of the storms are further south from where I'm at. I'm literally smack dab in the center part of Illinois, on the western half. So like Peoria ish. Yeah, some of the Archie comics are really good. Brandon wants me to provide a controversial MLP opinion. I don't have any right now. Friendship is dead. That's my controversial MLP opinion. Friendship is dead. But yeah. I can't wait to see what the chat says about that one. Anyway, guys, I'm going to go ahead and end the stream. If I don't do another one of these, have a happy, I definitely won't be. But I want to say just have a happy and safe Memorial Day since I won't be live before then. Dicey if whether or not I'll be on before 4th of July. But we are going into the patriotic summer holidays. If I don't do another live stream up until then, I hope you guys are safe. Enjoy the start of summer. For those of you who are getting out of college and high school, if you're graduating at all, congratulations on graduating. Enjoy your summer vacations. Whatever the case is, thank you, Brandon. He says enjoy summer. I already am. It's not going to feel like summer this week. There you go, Brandon. Well, congratulations, because I don't know if I'll go live in 4 weeks. So if I don't, congratulations. But Sake Blue, says Elijah. Time to die, Michael. End your stream or I kill you. How did Frieza get in here? You filthy monkey. I will check that out, Brandon. Thank you. Hey, Brandon, after this video, remind me in the comments in case I forget, because I will. Definitely leave that in the comments. Discord Jedi Knights. All right, guys, I'm going to go ahead and end it. I hope you guys enjoyed the live stream. I know you guys enjoyed episode 103 and the Shockers. I promise, as always, when I say I promise something, you guys are going to get Jules' full back. You guys are going to get the backstory for Jules. And you guys start getting it in episode 104. So don't fret there. If you guys look at the comments section for episode 103, Elijah's already given his predictions as to what some of the dialogue is. He's pretty close on some of it. Anyway. All right, guys, be safe out there. If I don't go live again before 4th of July, again, happy patriotic early summer holidays. And congrats to everyone who's going to graduate, whether it be high school or college. Anyway, guys, that's all the time I got. I got to go get some food because I'm starving. Until next time, guys. Peace.